Okay. The webinar is being recorded now. So participants will have access to the recording as well as the slide deck after this webinar. A note about that, this may make it a little bit tricky. We wanted more participation rather than less participation. So this is not a webinar format. This is a typical Zoom meeting format, but we've increased the capacity of the Zoom meeting room to 500. So we should have bandwidth for everybody. If you're experiencing low bandwidth, you can turn off your camera and make yourself muted. That can conserve bandwidth. We should be okay here. We will have breakouts. We will do some polls in this. We want to encourage discussion that's in line with our agreement. So your active participation is welcomed by adding your comments and questions in the chat box throughout. Lenny and Sarah and myself at times will monitor the chat, and we will bring in questions to current topics, and we will have a specific section at the end for discussion and follow-up questions. When using the chat box, please keep your comments and questions relevant to the targeted topic of today's webinar, which we will get to in just a second, I promise. Questions will be answered to the extent possible after slides have been presented. Questions that we're unable to get to during the allotted webinar time, which is 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., will be presented will be answered in the questions and answer document that will be developed and shared after this webinar. We will try to capture all the questions and respond to them if we see it in chat. So we will get a transcript of this. Please feel free to send additional questions to me, Jason, at shareselfhelp.org after the webinar. And thank you for your courteous participation in today's webinar. So let's look at what we're here for. This is the first learning collaborative. And typically, we want to make sure in learning collaboratives, we're going to have quarterly learning collaboratives as part of this process, as part of this project, this training. And ideally, what we're looking to do is create space for people to be able to practice things that they've learned and share and connect about that. Right now, you haven't learned anything yet. Some of you are still finalizing your statements of work. Fine, no problem. We're still building the elements of the kind of autonomous learning modules through the Behavioral Health Workforce Resource Center. And that's ongoing. So today, we're going to cover some of the essential elements of peer services. We're going to talk specifically about 5 practices of peer support that strengthen social support and the peer relationship. These are things that your staff are going to be supervising and peer specialists are going to be implementing in direct services across all areas of peer support. And I want to be clear also, when I'm talking about peer support, I am talking about maintaining a peer relationship that can be family member to family member as a peer. That can be parent partner to parent partner as a peer. That can be individual to individual as a peer. These practices are active, evidence-based practices in all those relationships and interactions. So we're going to cover helper therapy, peer listening and disclosing, self-help support groups, recovery planning, and peer bridging. So I'm going to take a breath. I've been going really quickly. And the first thing that we want to do together is share some ideas about what recovery is. So there's this thing called a Jamboard where we can share our ideas together and we can all look at our ideas. We wanted to do a Jamboard for this process. Jamboard only works for 50 participants, and we've got 158. So that's not going to work. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do, I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a second, and Lenny is going to put up a Jamboard, and we can all stay muted. I want you to put your thoughts about what recovery means to you in the chat, and Sarah and I will help Lenny populate the Jamboard. We will kind of call things out to her so that we can all see this broad term and many definitions of what recovery looks like. So if you could all take the time and go ahead and put in the chat what your ideas of recovery or what comes to mind when you think about recovery. And I'm going to stop sharing so Lenny can put up the Jamboard. All right. Okay. All right, recovery. So what we have here, we've got connection, a new way of living, healthy living, active pursuit to wellness, person-centered, healing, non-linear, feeling I am okay, different for everyone, moving beyond patterns that don't work, healing and growing, guiding myself to freedom of mind, body, and spirit, healing and compassion, accepting and adapting in healthy ways, setting boundaries for yourself and others, relapse, finding hope, empathetic, self-love, understanding, spiritual growth and service to others, honesty with self and others, self-reliance, these are outstanding. I love this. I see almost every single one is different. This is great. A process goal, not an endpoint. A personal journey. A new way of living. Living life to the fullest potential. Real seeing. Forgiving self. Willingness to change. Being true with your emotions. All right, I'm going to give us like a couple more minutes here.
Liberation. I saw someone put liberation.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. You can share whatever you see that I haven't. They're coming fast. They're still coming fast.
Finding hope.
Humble and compassionate. Trust.
Self-reclamation. Healing from trauma. Freedom, isn't it?
All right. Liberation. I love it.
Releasing the past. Serenity.
All right. All right. It has been a couple minutes since I said we're going to give it a couple more minutes. We will at the end of the webinar, when we have the transcript, one of the things that we'll do is we'll try and capture everything that was mentioned in the chat and kind of make a word cloud of it and send it to everybody as kind of a memoriam of our brainstorming here. I want to acknowledge your contributions, and I want to, with humility and gratitude, really underscore the variety of definitions and the personal nature of everybody's input and response. I think one of the things that this shows is that recovery really is personal for every human being. And one of the things that we're looking to do with peer support, be it individual to individual, family member to family member, parent partner to parent partner, is to support people in defining and connecting with their idea and their process of recovery, rather than putting anything on it ourselves for anybody else. And so thank you for your contribution here. This is amazing. And these things, you know, the other thing that I notice about these things is that they are emotionally connected and aware. They are broader than any one kind of life issue, right? I see healing, I see trust, I see self-love, I see understanding, I see liberation, I see forgiveness. These are deep concepts that are foundational to fulfillment and one's sense of identity and purpose and connection. And as we approach this work and this specialization, I think we want to underscore that that unique and special connection that we're doing with peer support. So, so let's have you, thank you, Lenny. You can stop sharing the screen now. And it's good to see everybody again. I want to take, I just want to take a minute, and when we're going to have some times where we might ask a question, might answer a question. It's really hard for us to notice if people on the screen are physically raising their hands. So if you go to the bottom of your screen or your Zoom, there's a reaction button and you can raise hands. But I just want to take 5 comments from people about what that process was. And so I'm just going to kind of look for hands up. Sarah or Lenny, if you see those raised icons of hands, that would be great. People can share kind of their feeling about this process so far.
And very quickly, we have a new registration link. The first one was corrupted for some reason, but if you look in the chat, I just posted a new one. I checked it and it's working. So please register there. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Sorry for the, it was corrupted on our end. I don't think it's corrupting any of your stuff. So sorry about that, but the new registration link works. So who wants to offer something about that process of seeing recovery, sharing recovery? I'm looking for hands. And we will unmute you when we see a hand. So.
And it looks like Sinetta has her hand up, or their hand up.
All right, let's see. All right. All right, Sinetta, you can go ahead and unmute. Let me see, ask to unmute. Okay.
Okay. You know what it brought to mind, this exercise of just everyone putting things up there. And I get emotional, so don't mind me if I get, that way. But it just brought to mind the many facets, that we are as individuals. And by tapping into recovery, just the fullness of life that it brings, to everyone, everyone that recovered person's life can touch in so many different ways. Recovery is amazing. That's what I got.
Thank you, Sinetta. And Paula, I see that you have your hand up. You are unmuted now.
Yeah, so I teach our peer-to-peer class for Solano County, NAMI, and we ask this of our students. We take about the same amount of time that you take on it, but now it's just really became clear to me how each of them can really learn more about themselves and connect to their own definition of what recovery means.
Great, thank you. And Sage, and then Adrian will be next. All right, go ahead, Sage. Well, wait a sec. Let me see. I've got you. All right, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Should be good.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My personal journey in recovery is in my 50s. I found out that I have a genetic disorder, and that's part of one of my frustration is the medical side of what's wrong with me, and learning that I have to teach people about how to help me if they want to, or be a part of my life, because I have this thing that has been taking over my life, but I'm using it to help others and hopefully help change the medical model and the behavior health model of what wellness looks like. There it is.
Thank you. Let's see. All right, Adrian.
Hi, my name's Adrian. I got out of that is that first and foremost is to find out myself, stop to lying to myself, you know, finding myself, finding what's the real issue of what's ever making me tick or making the person tick. And so that's one of the things that I practice a lot in terms of when I talk to clients and talk to people that need help. You know, it's because a lot of times they think the outer selves of them, meaning going to work, staying busy, and all that is going to help them. It may help them later on, but to me, it's first the interior of themselves. That's what matters. You know what I mean? Get to the root of whatever's, like I said, making them go do whatever they were doing. You know, so that's very important to me. You know what I mean? And I sometimes you get clients that feel that it's unnecessary, but you know, they come to find out that it is necessary, because they're right back to their revolving door, especially when they're under pressure, you know, and they don't know how to react to a lot of things. And so, you know, I give them hopes and try to help them, but that's basically what I get out of recovery. Thank you.
I'm muted. That's going to happen like 5 more times. I'm going to talk and I'm going to be muted and you guys are just going to stare. Okay. So it looks like we'll do one more from Levi or Levy. Let me see. There you go. You're unmuted.
Yes, thank you, Levi. I like that exercise that shows it's individual through us, but with that exercise, it also combined us all, because I can read things in there that maybe I haven't put into words, but I still had, you know, not those exact words, but I've still had those same sort of feelings. I like how that can bring a room together.
That's a great observation. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your experiences. And I'm glad that it replicated, you know, in a sense, it replicates peer support, and that we're able to speak our experience and we're able to connect with the experience of others. And through that, our connection with our own experience is even deepened, right? As all of you share about what recovery means to you and how your thoughts about recovery are, I am reminded of that aspect of recovery within myself. And so it's a continual kind of connection and growth process. So thank you. And we are going to monitor the chat. I'm just, as we go, Lenny and Sarah, please keep track of the chat. If there are questions that are more general related to the topics, we'll try and cover them at the end again. So you're welcome to put them there, and we'll cover them at the question and answer at the end. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to keep moving forward. So I can't see all of you anymore, which is a real bummer, but I can see our slides. And I want to say that, let's see here. So when we're going to talk about the essential elements of peer services and these components, I realize this may be, this is some foundational concepts for peer support that are going to be highlighted in your individual projects and in the specific training components that we're connecting with. The goal here is to really create a foundational understanding of distinguishing peer services from non-peer services, and really cover the basic components of 5 specific peer practices that I mentioned before: helper therapy, peer listening and disclosing, self-help support groups, recovery planning, and peer bridging. And I just thought of another question that we might do at the end. So I'm going to put this out there. I want you to all kind of think about it, because we're going to cover these components. And if I remember, if I'm on it enough to remember at the end of this 3 hours, I might ask us to reflect on what parts of these 5 practices we used in that process of sharing recovery with each other. So hold on to that as we go through this, and let's talk specifically now about peer roles. So, and I think that, you know what I would rather do? I don't want to be doing everything. I don't want to be talking. This is a collaborative effort. If people can share my screen, who really likes to talk and share stuff and read slides? Does anybody want to volunteer and read these peer roles?
I'll read those peer roles for you.
Go for it. And say who you are and where you're from.
Certainly. Levi Pedrick, and I'm out of Voices of Recovery, San Mateo County.
Great.
Peer roles. A peer role is a standalone role, just like a case manager role is a standalone role. Peers focus on the development of a relationship first and foremost. Peers approach the relationship as equals. The relationship is about mutuality. It is mutually beneficial. Peers use their lived experience in the roles and model recovery. How that lived experience is shared to support the relationship is a key skill of the peer role. The peer and the person being supported are equals.
Thank you very much, Levi. A couple of things to highlight here. Let's see if I can highlight. So the relationship, the development of a relationship first and foremost. One of the things that came out in the recovery Jamboard was trust. So, and it's a specific kind of relationship. It's a relationship as equals, and it's a relationship that's mutually beneficial. And you may have heard over the decades of advocacy for peer services and self-defined behavioral health, substance use, and physical health services. You may have heard the term, every consumer is a provider. We're going to dig into that a little bit more deeply today. That's part of things being mutually beneficial. Best practices in peer support mean that the person who is coming for services is also providing services, is also helping. And we're going to talk about some specific ways to do that. So lived experience in their roles and modeling recovery, how that lived experience is shared to support the relationship is the key skill of the peer role. And as California moves forward with implementing SB 803 and developing trainings and a standard for certification, it's using some specific components that are listed in the legislation. It's referencing SAMHSA's core competencies. And what we want to do foundationally for all of your organizations, everybody in your organizations that's connected to peer services, is connect those things to the peer specific interactions and techniques, so that that peer relationship is highlighted in and strengthened in all those activities. So let's move on. So this slide we got from, we did a project with SAMHSA to train, it was called the Supervision of the Peer Workforce Project. So this is straight from SAMHSA. A peer specialist is and does, and a peer specialist is not, does not. So who, would somebody else like to read the is and does?
I'll
I'll
read.
read it.
Okay, I heard whoever said it first.
My name's Gwen Schrank. I'm
Awesome.
from Schrank's Clubhouse Visalia in Visalia, California, Central Valley. So the is does column, a person in recovery, shared lived experience, a role model, see the person in the context of the person's role, family, and community, motivate through hope and inspiration, and support many pathways to recovery.
Thank you, Gwen. And I want to highlight one thing, a person in recovery. Remember back to that Jamboard, how distinct and individual recovery is. So recovery can be a family member, it can be a parent, right, that is in a process of recovery for that relationship, that interaction, that context as they define recovery. Excellent. So who would like to read the is not, does not part of this?
I'll do
Okay.
it.
I will.
Teresa, I saw you, sorry. And whoever's was right behind Teresa with the I will, you're next.
Okay, that would be me.
Okay,
Okay.
so after Teresa.
Is not, does not. Mary McQueen, a
Mary
clinic.
McQueen. Okay,
Okay.
Mary, you're gonna do the next one.
Oh,
Teresa's
okay.
gonna do this one.
Okay, got it.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Thank you.
And-
A peer specialist is not a clinician. A peer specialist does not give professional advice, is not an expert or an authority figure, does not approach the person as a case or diagnosis, does not motivate through fear of negative consequences, and does not prescribe one specific pathway to recovery.
Excellent, thank you. It's important to note that in the practice of peer support, peer specialists, peer supervisors, peer services in general might be pulled into these things at any given time, right? Somebody that is coming for peer services that's looking to a peer specialist might see that peer specialist as an expert or authority and might put them up. And that means that that peer specialist has to intentionally work in their relationship to counteract that perception of authority or expertise. So we're gonna help people be able to do that. Thank you, Teresa.
Do you mind if I say,
Yeah.
it's really important, what I notice is it's really important in how we communicate with, at Insight Respite Center, we call our clients guests because they come to stay in this home. And it's important in how we talk to them and how we communicate, and you know, instead of telling a guest, you know, I need you to do this, because just that I need you sets up a dynamic of authority.
Yeah.
And we work on that a lot because it's real easy to do that.
It's almost habitual in everyday language in our culture. So it's an active practice of a counterintuitive practice often of using different language. Thank you, Teresa. Adrian, did you have your hand up for this, or is that from before?
Oh, that was from before. I was gonna read.
Okay, you will be after Mary. Thank you. I will come back to you. So Mary, we've got more. We've got more is and does. Oh, you gotta.
Okay, here we go. Okay, and does. Peer specialist is and does function as an advocate for the person in recovery, both within and outside of the program. Teach the person how to accomplish daily tasks, teach the person how to acquire needed resources, including money, help the person find basic necessities, uses language based on common experience, help the person find professional services from lawyers, doctors, psychologists, and financial advisors, share knowledge of local resources, encourage support and praise, help to set personal goals, serves as a role model for positive recovery behavior, provides peer support services.
Outstanding. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
I want to emphasize here, all of these things, right? All of these things we've got to hold in a special place and connect them back to this role, to these roles. So all of those things, all of those specific things have to be grounded in this foundation: mutuality equals lived experience. Okay. Very good. All right. So Sarah, I want to know, I see that you have your hand up. So we'll go Adrian, and after Adrian, Sarah, you will be the next to read or share when we get to something like that. Thank you. All right, Adrian, have at it.
Okay.
Is not, does not.
Is not, does not. Carry out tasks for a person, give resource and money to the person, provide basic necessities such as a place to live, use clinical language, provide professional services, provide case management services, diagnose, assess, or treat, mandate tasks and behaviors, tell the person how to lead his or her life in recovery.
Excellent. Thank you, Adrian. Now, with these, a peer specialist who has lived experience might be pulled in to any one of these roles. It doesn't mean somebody with lived experience, cannot do these things. What it means is those things are not peer services. And our goal here is to emphasize and strengthen the skill set of peer specialists and their connection to specific peer practices. Okay, so we are at our first poll now. Sarah, I have your name written down, so we're going to get to you after this. And I'm only seeing, people like the top, like 20th of all of you, because when I share my screen, I can't see everybody. So if I'm not seeing that your hand is raised, Lenny or Sarah, you can scroll through and write names down of people who are raising their hands and want to participate. And if we don't see you, just shout out, "Hey, I got my hand up." Okay, so poll number one. We're going to launch a poll here. So which of the following are peer roles? Telling someone which medications to take, suggesting the best housing option for someone, supporting someone in setting personal goals, enforcing compliance, disclosing their experience with a mental health issue. Here we go. I'm going to launch this poll and go ahead. You can answer the poll. And this is, remember, this is a choose all that apply.
I already submitted mine before you had said select all that apply. I was like, oh, which is the best one? Sorry.
That's all right. No worries.
So the takeaway comes from Noon. Noon is here for people.
In the last one, does there refer to the peer supporter or the person being supported?
Good question. It refers to the peer supporter disclosing their own lived experience.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't want to disclose other people's lived experience. We'll get into HIPAA. All right, we are at 76% of people have voted, 77. I'm gonna give it a couple more seconds.
Can I change my submission?
I am not that proficient at Zoom polling, so you can, after we're all done, you can share. Why don't you share your answer in the chat when we're done with the poll?
While we're waiting for response, can you show slide 9?
I can show slide 9. That's
Thank
a good
you.
one. Yeah. Well, ooh, I don't know if it's gonna, there we go. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we're at 85% and we're at 2 minutes. So I'm gonna end the polling right now and we're gonna share the results. Okay, so we've got 97% of people said that supporting someone in setting personal goals, that is something that a peer specialist does, and absolutely it is. And the other one is disclosing their experience with a mental health issue. That is also something that is part of a peer role. So congratulations, you all did a great job. And let me stop share the results. Okay. So, and I think I'm going to shut this down. Okay, I know how to do this now, so be careful. I'm dangerous. Okay, we can do polls. All right, so we're now going to get into the first element of peer services that we want to cover. This is an evidence-based practice called helper therapy. Okay, and Sarah, you were next in wanting to read. So have at it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm with Compatior Counseling Center in Southgate.
All right.
Hi. So it says helper therapy. The helper therapy principle. So it states that the person who helps get more out of the interaction than the person being helped. Peers give the people they serve opportunities to help others so they get the benefit of helping. Helping others have positive health and mental health benefits and heals the helper more than the person being helped. Creating opportunities for people to help improve their lives, improve their health, mental health, and self-esteem. When people help others or even perceive they are helping others, they feel good about themselves in ways that improve their mental health, and functioning.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. So this is a concept that is easy to say. Sarah, you did a great job saying it. It can be very difficult to put into practice and to really get people to understand that in many ways, the very best thing that we can do for any individual is to turn them into the person that's helping somebody else. So one of the things that we're going to do in training peer specialists is to help them find the places in their programs, in your agencies, in those environments where they can get one person helping another person. Their goal is to get everybody that's coming in for services to be the person that thinks of themselves as helping other people. That way, there's a shift in identity, okay? This concept, I'm gonna go into a little bit of the evidence here, but we'll provide you context for this. We'll give you the resources and the links for these articles. But for example, in a mentorship program between teens who were having difficulties academically, they created a mentor program where high school students tutored junior high school students in, grades. And being a teenager. They set everything up. And at the end of the program, the middle school students that were getting tutored, their grades went up. They went from like a C+ to a B. And they thought, this is great, it works. Mentorship with teens works. And then they looked at the high school students who also had a C+ grade point average, and their grades went up to an A. Because as the helpers, they got a greater benefit than the people being helped. So let's see, who else would like to read? I just wanted to underscore that thing or share. Oh, Nia, all right. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Nia. I think you can unmute yourself.
Yep, I'm unmuted.
All right.
Hi, so read this slide.
Yes.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Nia Lancelin Brantley, and I'm the training specialist at Project Return Peer Support Network. Helper therapy principal evidence. Among teens tutoring younger children, the younger children's grades improved with tutoring, but the teen tutors' grades improved even more. Roganis and Badner, 1973. A majority of community health workers felt helper benefits, including positive feelings about self, a sense of belonging, and valuable work experiences. Recovery rates for alcoholics doubled if they were helping other alcoholics. The helpers high. Helpers report a distinct physical sensation associated with helping. About half report that they experienced a high feeling. 43% felt stronger and more energetic. 28% felt warm. 22% felt calmer and less depressed. 21% experienced greater feelings of self-worth. And 13% experienced fewer aches and pains. Key questions. As a peer worker, am I letting the person help me or encouraging them to help others?
Great, thank you, Nia. So one of the things that we want to be doing in implementing peer services, supporting peer specialists, is this foundational question. As a peer working, am I letting the person help me or encouraging them to help somebody else? We want to build those kind of relationships into the services and into the interactions that we're doing. All right, so now going back to my newly found proficiency, I think we're gonna be coming up to another poll. This is a spoiler alert. So let's see, does anybody else wanna share? We've got a slide about how people report they feel when they receive help, when they get help. Let's see, I'm looking.
And I'll read again for you.
Okay, you can read again.
All right, let's jump in there. Helper therapy. When I received help, when asked how they felt about helping and being helped, people gave many answers. Which answers connect with how you feel or add your own?
So this is what people report when they talk about the feelings that come up as they receive help.
Grateful, vulnerable, happy, relieved, unworthy, weak, indebted, humbled, ashamed, wary, skeptical, offended, angry, useless, surprised, uncomfortable. In quotes, I was raised to be independent. I should be able to do it myself. Unquote.
Okay, so this is a, oh, hey, all right. I like somebody's writing on the slide. That's great. Expressing the need to be helped can be empowering. It also may come with shame. It may come with ambiguity. It may come with vulnerability, and we want to be mindful of that. The next slide is about things that people reported when they talked about how they feel about helping. Who would like to read this?
Jason, I can read.
Okay, great.
This is Jamie Cardoza from Transitions Mental Health in San Luis Obispo. So group exercise, how do you feel about helping? When asked how they felt about helping and being helped, people gave many answers. Which answers connect with how you feel and add your own? When I help someone, I feel great, superior, appreciated, connected, empowered, in control, valued, important, smart. My life is worth living, capable, and proud.
Certainly, this isn't going to be everybody's experience. It is often that people report more positive feelings when they're in the role of being the helper. So anything that we can do to get people in that role is going to be ultimately a greater benefit. Adrian, did you have your hand up again, or was that from before?
That was from before.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so now we get to poll number 2. How do people feel about helping someone else? Important, capable, connected to a sense of purpose and meaning, empowered. And I'm going to go up here. I'm going to launch this poll. Let me go to the next one. Let's see. How do people feel about helping someone? I'm going to launch the polling. There we go. All right. This is multiple choice again. All right, we're at 80% of people voting. I'll give it 20 more seconds maybe. The polls will be closing soon.
Jason, could I just make a little quick observation?
Sure. Yeah.
For those of us who need to raise money for our organizations, these are really key things to remember when you're asking someone to join you in becoming a donor, or you're asking them to make a gift. We confuse our reluctance to ask for money with how it makes people feel to give and support us. And these are all really important feelings that the person you're asking to make a donation, you offer them the opportunity to feel those.
That's absolutely, that's a great observation. Yeah. So as you're, you might be doing a capital, fund campaign. You might just be even raising a few funds for specific projects. These kind of feelings come along with that kind of giving as well. So excellent point. All right, we've got, let's see, 85% of people voted. I'm going to end the polling, and we have finding purpose and meaning is our highest one with 86%. These are all feelings that people have reported experiencing about helping individuals. People feel important. They feel capable because they can help somebody else. They have a purpose and a sense of meaning, and they feel connected and empowered. Excellent. So the next poll question is going to be, how do people feel about being helped? Grateful, indebted, uncomfortable, weak. And I'm going to launch this right now. And here we go. And again, this is select all that apply. I love it. I love that people are annotating the screen.
Etch
Love
a
it.
sketch.
That's great. Nice. We've got 83%. Polls are going to close in a minute. No, not a minute, sorry. And we'll give it 20 seconds. All right, outstanding. So I'm in the polling and we've got, let me share the results. We've got feelings about being helped. 88% said people feel grateful, 55% indebted, 56% uncomfortable, 52% weak. And all of these are accurate. It might differ depending on the context. It might differ depending on what the ask is. Somebody shared about asking donors for money, right? Often organizations are reluctant to do that because of fear about what it does to the relationship, even though that person that's going to help is going to get a benefit from helping. They're going to get the helper's high. At the same time, we might feel uncomfortable, indebted, or weak. We can think about what it's like. And as people with lived experience, we can think about, the things that kept us from asking for help, how those things made us feel, and use that to shape the nature of the relationships and the structure of how helping is working in the relationships and in our programs. So thank you all very much. I'm going to close the poll down. And let's move on to the second essential element. And
Jason, can I just ask really quick?
Yeah, please.
Only about half of everyone have filled out the registration link.
Okay.
I'm going to re-put it in the chat. I just put it in the chat again. So if you wouldn't mind, it'll just take a second, but it'd be super helpful to us if everybody could fill out that registration link, even if you pre-registered, just so we have everyone all in the same place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lenny. Okay, so there are, again, foundational elements. We're going to be digging into these in great detail in the learning components for the program. This is an introduction and a real opportunity for us to go a little bit in depth to help nail down these specific things that are critical. So peer listening and disclosing. This is the only activity in SAMHSA's core components of peer support that is actually distinct to peer practices, peer listening and disclosing. So who would like to read this?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, peer listening and disclosing. The tools, disclosing. Disclosing is using I statements to share personal experiences that connect to the needs and expressed interest of another. It creates a peer-to-peer environment. The more comfortable someone feels, the more they will disclose and the more growth becomes possible. Excuse me. When people are unable to talk about what's going on with them, disclosing may help create the safety they need to share their story. This is one of the most important healing elements of a healthy self-help support group. As everyone discloses, people release shame and grow.
Thank you very much, Teresa. let me share two quick anecdotes from a peer program that we have. One of the things that we do in Los Angeles County is that we maintain a database and provide referrals to self-help support groups throughout Los Angeles County. So that database is 12,000 self-help support groups that deal with 750 different life issues. So whatever's happening for somebody, there's a community-based self-help support group that deals with that issue. And there's often a group for friends and family members of people that have that issue, okay? So another thing about that is we did a census of all of those calls, of people calling for a referral to a self-help support group. And almost 50% of people calling for a referral to a self-help support group reported that they had never shared this issue with another human being. This is the first time they're sharing this issue with another human being. So imagine what happens when they get to that first self-help support group. And I'm going to stop sharing so I can see people really quick. So imagine what happens when people get to that self-help support group where it's about an issue they've never shared with another human being, right? They're probably going to sit in the back of the room, right, against the wall. And when the self-help support group starts, one of the things about self-help support groups is they're often kind of led by a format, like a written format, rather than an identified, I'm the leader of the meeting kind of thing. So, and oftentimes, one of the first things that's said as the meeting starts is, hi, my name's Jason, I'm and you fill in the blank for what the life issue is, right? It might be an overeater, it might be a sex addict, it might be a gambler, it might be an alcoholic, it might be my wife is my qualifier, right? It could be a family group. The next sentence after, hi, my name's Jason, I'm a blank. So it starts with disclosing. The first line of that meeting beginning is disclosing. And often the next sentence is something like, are there any others present? And the next thing that happens when whoever's reading that format says, are there any others present? Who can guess what happens? What happens next? What do other people in the meeting do? Everybody raises their hand, right? Everybody in that meeting raises their hand. So the person that's never shared they've got this experience with another human being, within 2 minutes of this meeting starting, sees they're in a room full of people that have this life issue. And then people start talking. And they're talking about things that only people with that have lived that can talk about, right? And the person's going, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only person that had that. This person did that, and this person did that, and this person did that. And as people are talking, they're talking with laughter. They're talking with a sense of hope. They have skills, they have tools. So the person within 10 minutes sees they're surrounded by people living with that issue that are experiencing some of the things that we identified with when we opened this training, which is hope, trust, right? A feeling of safety, self-love. Those things are abundant in the sharing. And authenticity is another one. So that's part of the power of disclosing. So let's get back to disclosing. I'm going to share again, and we'll get to the next slide. So heroes. Who else wants to share? Somebody who hasn't shared before. Oh, is that John? John, yes.
Afternoon, everybody.
Hi.
So disclosing continued. As soon as someone discloses anything, disclose in return. The more disclosing, the less the person feels alone and the less shame they feel. Sharing personal information that validates, supports, or models recovery encourages others to disclose as well as to increase intimacy. The disclosure is based on what the person has communicated based on their needs rather than the peer staff's own needs. Disclosing reduces shame and anxiety and gives the person a feeling of acceptance.
Thank you very much. I want to emphasize this point here. If I can, let's see. No, it's a picture. I can't highlight it. Oh, note for next time, make sure I can highlight everything in the slides. Anyway, so that second bullet point, the disclosure is based on what the person has communicated, and that's the person coming to us for service, what the person has communicated based on their needs rather than the staff's own needs, right? So I may be somebody that is, if I identify as, I'm a recovering alcoholic, great. If I greet everybody that comes into this building by saying, hi, I'm Jason, I'm an alcoholic, what are people who aren't alcoholic going to do? They're going to go, okay, whatever. Or they might have stigma against that, right? So my disclosing, even if that is my story, my disclosing has to be specific to what the person is going through. And it has to be motivated by the needs of that person rather than my needs to tell my story. Okay, these things are essential in the practice of peer listening and disclosing. And so we are going to give all of you, as part of kind of essential components of peer services, for all of these 5 things that we're going over. This is an example here for peer listening and disclosing. We're going to give you a little rubric of high recovery listening and disclosing and low recovery listening and disclosing, right? So an example of a low recovery listening and disclosing is when I, as a peer specialist, am disclosing because of my needs to disclose, because of the benefit to me. An example of high recovery peer listening and disclosing is when my disclosing as a peer specialist is grounded in the need of the person coming in for peer services. And I tailor that disclosing, I tailor what I share about my lived experience to connect with what the person is actually experiencing. Okay, and we're going to train, as part of this project, we're going to train peer support specialists to do that, to connect with the life issue that the person is experiencing, rather than thinking of our recovery journeys as specific and distinct, and that we're telling our stories. We're not telling our stories for advocacy purposes. There is a place for that. In the practice of peer services, we are using peer listening and disclosing to connect with people in what they're going through. And we're going to use our experience with that lived experience that they are currently experiencing to create that connection. So this is a lot of text here. I'm not going to have anybody
Yes,
read all
go
of
ahead,
it,
Ms. Brown.
unless somebody really wants to read all of this. But so speak up now or forever hold your peace, because you're going to get this. All right, but you get the idea. And now what we're going to do, and this is going to be a challenge, we're going to get to our breakout. So in our breakout, we have 161 people. So I am going to create 11 breakout rooms, hopefully. And what we want people to do in this breakout session is discuss some of the benefits and challenges of peer listening and disclosing. So when you get to your breakout group, make sure each one of you is ready to jot down kind of notes. I would prefer that everybody do that rather than ascribing or assigning a scribe. I think you're going to get a greater benefit if everybody is taking notes on the conversation. And the idea is that come back when we report back. Each group is going to report back one benefit and one challenge. A hint, have more than one of each. That way, if the group that goes before you says what you were going to say, you've got something else to say. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'm going to ask if there are any questions that are specific to the breakout here that we're going to do, or and I'm going to ask Linny and Sarah to look in the chat. Let's look at this. Okay, we do have Ashan says disclosing doesn't always reduce shame and anxiety. Oftentimes it increases anxiety, and many times we re-experience the original shame or self-shaming while we disclose. That's true. We're not talking about decreasing our shame and anxiety. We're talking about decreasing the shame and anxiety of the person we are disclosing to, because they feel that they're not alone. Okay, and that's a great topic. We have to make sure that we're training people that are able to disclose, and if they're not able to disclose, to let somebody know, to say, I need a break, this is really heavy. We have peer specialists sometimes that, you know, they know some specifics about what their triggers might be, and we make sure that they're in an environment where they're going to be successful with the people that we serve, and they're going to be successful in their own kind of self-care for being in a place where they're able to perform. Okay. And let's see, I'm going to continue to monitor the chat. So let's see. Annotate. Okay. All right. So we're giving notes on annotations. Great. All right. I hope everybody, this is going to be another learning objective. People will learn how to annotate on Zoom. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So if there are no questions about this, I'm going to start sharing again, and then I'm going to send everybody in the breakout room. I am okay. Here we go. Everybody ready? No. I said no. You need a minute? All right. So let's see here. Okay, ready. Now people are ready. All right. Where did it go? Oh, what's going on here? Okay, here we go. Let's see. I'm going to be able to do this soon. Here we go. Okay. Breakout rooms. Here we go. Sorry, everybody. Okay, I am going to create. All right, we've got 11 breakout rooms. We're assigning automatically. We're going to give this, we want you to have a rich discussion. We're going to be able to go till 4 o'clock today. We're going to have some time at the end for questions. So I'm going to do 15 minutes for people. There's going to be less than, hopefully most groups will have less than 10. We've got 152 participants. So here we go. Enjoy. All right, so where are we here? Hey. This is the breakout chat. Go ahead.
Jason, would you like me to do another of the Jamboards with the answers? You're muted, but I think you're saying it.
I am saying that's a great idea. You're right. Thank you. So,
I'm getting a question about will there be time for a short break?
People can, if they need to take a break, they can go ahead and take a really quick break. We only have 3 hours, so we're going to go straight through.
I'll send a message to the rooms that, is this the time to take a break? Or, I mean, people are grown-ups, they can mute there.
Yeah. Good. Warren, are you, did you get assigned to a breakout room?
Yes, I did. I was using the restroom.
Oh, okay. All right. No
Right
problem.
now.
Okay, great. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. And then Corey, did you get assigned to a breakout room? And Gigi and Natalie?
I shifted to my laptop, so I don't see where from my
Okay,
phone.
let me find you and I think I'll be, if you shifted, I think I can be able to assign you. Pardon me. I wish I could just look people up by name in this. Here we go. I can assign you to, what's your favorite number, Gigi?
7.
There you go into room 7. All right.
Thanks.
Yep. Corey, Natalie, Kate, have you been assigned to rooms? Is that Nichelle? Did I see you come back? Did you get kicked out of a breakout room? Hi. Did you get, you can unmute yourself. Let me ask you to unmute here. There you go. I think you can unmute now. There you go. Did you get booted out of the breakout room?
No,
No?
I just had to switch areas in the building.
Okay, let me reassign you. I'm going to try and find you in the.
There's no sound. You're struggling with sound. Let me see here. Let me see here for a second.
I heard him.
Hey, Jason, could you just start talking?
Yeah, okay. I hear you fine. I hear you loud and clear. So
Okay, because the speaker that she hears you from is really low. And I have it at max. So,
That's okay. Okay. I can hear him.
all right, well, that's what you get. There you
Mute
go.
it.
You are not muted.
Okay, thank you so much. And Nichelle, I'm going to go ahead and connect you to a room. I'm going to do you just based on the number of participants rooms have. So you're going to room 3. Enjoy. Thank you. And let's see, I saw Lori come back. Lori, did you get into a room? And Shaniqua. All right, Lori, I will, thanks for updating the chat. I will connect you back if I can find you in this list. What room were you in, Lori? What number? Got it, room 8. Here we go. Huh. It looks like you're going to get into a different group. So I'm going to send you to 9. Lenny, did you get an email from Libby for the evaluation link?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
Jason,
Yes.
we have about 116 people registered from today. And since we have, I think we're missing about 50 people. So we want to try to encourage them to register. And I don't know if they're aware that this is something the funder really wants, is who attended. It's very important.
Yep. Thank you. We've mentioned it a couple times. We will continue. Thank you. I know that many people are kind of going back and forth between devices that they're using. So I think there's a little.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. People have logged out and logged back in just even during the breakout room. So I've been kind of reassigning people as they're dealing with device issues.
Okay.
Isn't it weird that like when you use a screen like this with text on it, Libby, when you look at it, is it backwards?
Yes, it is.
That's just awesome. Okay. The power of the lens.
Yes.
All right. All right. I'm going to close all rooms. Okay. All breakout rooms will close in 54, 53, 52 seconds. People may be coming back. Sarah's back. Who do we have here? Yes. All right. Look at that. People are still coming back. Got 6 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Oh yeah, here we go. People are getting back now. All right. All right, we've got 155 people back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed your breakout rooms. A couple of things. We want to remind everybody about the registration link. I know that people have gone back and forth, or some people have gone back and forth between devices on this. It's really, really helpful and really important to make sure that if you have not already, make sure you click on the registration link that we have in the chat so that you're registered and your presence here is included. Even if you registered before, we want you to just click that link and register so that we verify that you're here today, because you know, DHCS and AHP and SHARE as partners have to track participation. So thank you for your participation. Another thing that I want to talk about here is, oh, this is not going to, let's see. Oh, this is confidentiality, okay? We are talking about some things, and hopefully in your breakout rooms, you're talking about the issue rather than specific pure listening and disclosing. Nonetheless, one of the things that we talk about often in self-help support groups, what you see here, who you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, let it stay here, here, here. All right, so we want to respect the confidentiality of everybody in the room, and thank you. What happens in peer club stays in peer club. Thank you. Okay, so this is a great group. All right, we're going to do this again because it worked marginally to phenomenally well the first time. Lenny is going to put up another Jamboard, and as groups share kind of one of each, one of the benefits and one of the challenges of peer listening and disclosing, we're going to put them up here. So group one, who wants to report out from group one?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, so the challenges could be poor boundaries and bad timing of the choice of, or the when to disclose. The benefits, the main one was connection. We all said it really helps create a connection.
Great. All right, thank you very much. So that's room one. Room two. And if anybody else from room one wants to share, you know, I'm not going to limit it, but we'll go to room two and then we'll kind of have a follow-up. So room two.
Gosh, Jason, I don't know what room we were. I wonder if we're room two since nobody's chiming in.
Feel free to take on that room two role.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of what it boiled down to is that the benefits were in creating hope, in that mutuality and empathy.
Great.
And the key challenge that seemed to come up in our group was the vulnerability that we might feel, or that the people we're serving might feel, with being in an unfamiliar group and sharing.
Great. Good. I want to really quick, I want to touch on that. So being in an unfamiliar group. So that's one of the things that is really essential in this practice of having a peer staff person, a peer specialist, be kind of a bridge in listening and disclosing, because as a peer specialist, I'm trained in this and I develop a process with somebody where peer listening and disclosing becomes safe, right? And it becomes okay for them to talk about things through experience and practice. And through that, often what I'm building to do is help them be able to do that with others so that their social support network increases, so that when they go to a self-help support group, they feel comfortable sharing in that way about that issue, the way they've already shared with me. So that's a great point. Thank you. Let's see here. So that vulnerability is important. Group three. Bueller?
I'm not sure what group I was in, but should I share what our group had?
Sure.
Okay, so for the benefits, we had building rapport and connection were really strong.
Right.
And some of the challenges, one that was really interesting was no relatable experience.
Uh-huh. Great. Great question. Great issue. So one of the things that we want to do with that, as we develop competencies in these practices with peer support specialists, part of Peer Services 101 is a deep dive into different self-help support groups, how they see the world, issues that they talk about, and familiarity with the tools in those groups, and then practice around how people can use their own lived experience in the context of that issue so that whatever is coming up for somebody that comes in for services, I can relate in a way. As a human being, I've got lots of lived experience. There are going to be specifics that are really important. Nonetheless, I can find the things that are most likely to connect with that person with what they're going through in the moment. And then I can find a way to connect them to the place where that really sits authentically. Good point. Number 4.
I can share. This is Matt from California Peer Parent Network.
Hi, Matt.
Benefit to peer disclosing could be a unique opportunity to model recovery and engage in mutual support.
Excellent.
And a negative or a challenge could be the increased likelihood of creating a dual relationship and bearing the negative consequences of that relationship, the unintended negative consequences.
Yeah. Excellent. So we might be vulnerable, we might disclose, and things we disclose, the person might kind of hold against us or use in a place where they're where it might be hurtful, for example. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah, good point. So group 5. Or somebody who hasn't shared.
I'm not sure what our group number was, but some things that we came up with that haven't been mentioned yet is a benefit is mutual affirmation and validation.
Yeah.
And then a challenge came up, and then the benefit to it. So a challenge came up is, kind of what if you find yourself in the middle of needing crisis intervention, really having a crisis. And so a benefit would be having training on various forms of crises that may be mentioned, and how do you do that? And then someone in our group had also shared a challenge is being culturally responsive.
Excellent. Great. So, and there are things that we're going to bring in specifically in the next kind of segments about opportunities to reinforce cultural competence and to highlight cultural competence at every step. So I'm really glad that that came up. Group 6, or somebody that hasn't shared. I see Kate has, Kate's hand is up. I'm gonna ask, there you go.
Hi, thank you. I'm Kate Loftus, Program Manager at One New Heartbeat. And one of the benefits that we discussed was just the opportunity to participate in a consistent and committed relationship. We also mentioned several of the other ones that had already been mentioned. And then for challenges, we also had several of the ones that have been mentioned already, but one other one that we had was having to produce the outcomes that are expected from my programs. And, being attached to those possible outcomes.
That's a great one.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just love that people have lots of examples here. So let's go to Monica.
Yeah, so my group mentioned that the benefit of this could be that you open the door for dialogue. So creating kind of like that even playing field type of thing where it opens the door for the individual to feel more comfortable sharing. And then with that, though, we also felt like a challenge would be over disclosing as the peer specialist. and making sure that you don't overburden the person, right? And switching the roles up, like who's here for the support and who's here to give the support or facilitate it, right? And so that was kind of a challenge where we want to make sure that sometimes for some of us like myself, I love talking. And so you want to make sure that you stop yourself and really make sure that you allow space for the others to share so that you're not the one that's doing all the talking. And at the end, the individual that needs the support doesn't benefit from it.
Excellent. That's a great point. Is it Deanna? Do you have your hand up? Is this new or is this from before?
This is new.
This is new.
One of the things about over disclosing is having the personal boundaries of knowing, say, they share something about their child, and then you share something about your child, and you give information that later on could, put you in a hazard situation. That's kind of over disclosing too, is those personal boundaries, play a lot of different roles, like the writing response, right? I want to just fix this for you. I want to make it right, but it doesn't allow them the process of moving through it. So that, what are your boundaries in terms of listening and disclosing?
That's great. And we're back to the Jamboard. I want to acknowledge in the chat, things are coming up that people are having difficulty with the registration link. And I know that the first link that we put up there had a problem. So we will have Lenny repost the correct link after we're done with this. We'll repost it so that anybody that's having problems can get that. All right, so I am seeing somebody with their hand up, and what I see says transforming and then PE.
Peers Live.
All right.
I just wanted to share that disclosing can take many forms. And I want to share that when I frequently do outreach with people that are unsheltered, just by the way that I'm interacting with them, they ask me, oh, were you homeless? Were you da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And I just say, yes, don't even need to say more. And that shifts the relationship. So I think, there's various levels of disclosing and who initiates it. So I just kind of wanted to add that to the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I appreciate that. So let's see, group 8, how do you provide peer support to people with us? We will answer this question.
That was Monica when she did it.
Okay. I'm going to get back to that chat. So group number 8, anybody from group 8? Or
We did already. That was Monica. I think you're missing group 5.
That's what you're saying. Okay. Or let's go to group 9. Anybody from group 9? Or anybody that hasn't shared? Okay. I'm going to move to group 10 then.
Well, from group 10, we have most of the same benefits that are always there, but one of the challenges we talked a lot about was getting drawn into giving advice.
Excellent. Yeah. Yep.
And another thing, Jason, that we talked about at the very end, one of the challenges was how to navigate through silence.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. All right, and let's see, group 11.
I think Kevin shared for group 11 already.
Okay.
But if anybody from our group feels like there's something that I might have missed or that you want to make an add on, please do it.
Yeah, I do want to address one thing that's coming up in the chat. It's a great question. And it is, and I'm not going to use the term, right? Because the term is a clinical term. And sometimes clinical terms can take us out of the human relationship. So the idea is, the question is, how to disclose with somebody who's unaware of their own mental health condition. I'm not disclosing with somebody about what I think their mental health condition is. That's not the role. I'm disclosing with somebody about what they are experiencing right now. Right? So they could be experiencing bliss. I might think that that bliss is, I might not be able to relate to it. I need to find a way where I can relate to that. Does that make sense for people? I'm not, my emphasis as a peer support specialist is not on what I think the person's mental health condition is. It's what people are feeling and how I'm connecting with them. Excellent.
Well,
All
that's
right.
why I added Jason in there, that peers should be asking people how they feel.
Yeah.
And not assuming, and asking people what they need.
Yeah.
And sometimes people have to think about that and they're not sure what they need yet, rather than assuming.
This is
exactly
a great
what you were saying.
conversation. Yes. Yes. So we are here for the experience. Great. Let me continue to. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Okay. So we are going to go to the next one. Thank you. Thank you all for your participation. I hope that breakout room was gave you all a chance to connect and with the material and with each other. So let's go to Lenny, if you are done, and you are, Lenny is going to also put the registration link, the working one, back into the chat box for people. Let me take a couple minutes before we go on. I think we've been fairly good at at monitoring the questions so far, but let me give it a couple minutes. I'll take let me take 3 questions. Do people, if anybody has specific questions about this this component, this topic of peer listening and disclosing, go ahead, raise your hand. If I don't see your hand, say, hey, I have my hand up. I'm looking.
Jason, I see Levy has his hand up.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Go ahead. And yeah.
Great. Levi, still with Voice of Recovery Ed. I'm wondering about crisis management. So during the listening and being a part of things like that, it was for your youth, and we'd have a safety crisis management course as well as a room, because we'd have to do restraint. So I see that as a challenge if during disclosures and while listening, if some participants may have that sort of reaction, to manage that.
That's great. So, and there are specific practices for crisis response for peers in ways that peers can connect with somebody in crisis about what that crisis is. That connection may at times be in the context of it might be a response that is in the community where a peer is part of a team that's doing that response. It could be that that crisis is happening at a peer respite, and there are going to be others involved, and there's going to be a practice and a guideline for everybody involved to determine if this is a crisis that is applicable for peer support, or if this is a crisis that is something that needs more support. the best practice for that is also for the person to be supported in what they want. If they want something more than they can get right now, what does that look like? So using the peer relationship to continue to strengthen the sense of control and choice that people have when they're in a crisis is one of the great benefits of peer support. Good question. Other questions?
Mary McQueen has her hand up also.
Thank you, Sarah. Mary.
Okay. Hi, Jason. I have a question. And it is regarding this, well, a little while ago, you mentioned, you talked about confidentiality. So I have a question. For peers who work in a mental health department with a team, and you may have, this has happened to me, you have clients who disclose to you things that they don't disclose to the rest of the team. For instance, a relapse. And you have a substance abuse, you have the therapist, the psychiatrist, the mental health worker, and they're telling you that they've relapsed. And you, and you want to help this client, but you also want to respect their confidentiality, but you feel that this might, the team may need to know that she needs help in this area. How would you go about that? That's just one scenario. I have others, and this is what I brought up that was a little difficult. You know, how would you handle that to help that client to best, you know, meet that client needs?
Great question, Mary. Thank you. So it's funny because you refined your question as you were speaking from kind of general to Jason, how are you going to handle that? So how I'm going to handle that. So one, in this project, we're going to support peer specialists, supervisors of peer services, and organizations in developing the practices that are going to work for them, the people they serve, their environment. One of the things that I'm going to do if I'm a peer specialist is that I'm going to, think back to that Jamboard that we had in the very beginning, where one of the things that came up for recovery is trust. I want to establish trust in the relationship. So I can do that in several ways. I can do that directly at the beginning of the relationship. This is if these kinds of things are said, I want to know in advance what you want me to do with that. Do you want me to share that? Do you want me to hold that? If somebody shares something in the moment that is, that comes before we've had a chance to do that, I can talk about that then. What do you want me to do with this information? I'm going to disclose immediately any lived experience I've had with that. I'm going to disclose things that I've done that may have helped with that experience, right? So things that happened for me when I experienced a relapse were A, B, and C. I found this to be really important and really helpful. I'm also going to validate and I'm going to praise their vulnerability. They've shared this thing that is amazing, and I'm honored that they feel safe enough and comfortable enough to disclose something with me. That shows recovery. So I'm going to praise their recovery at every point of the way, right? Relapse mode is over as soon as the light of day shines on it. So the fact that you're sharing with me that you're in this experience, this is still a process of recovery, and it's beautiful. Does that make sense? And I think Kevin has his hand up, and then I think Levi, is that your hand up from before or again?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin. Yeah.
Thanks. I wanted to make just a brief response to the question about crisis. And I liked what you brought up, Jason, about the level of crisis and required support. I work in mobile crisis, and we are called out with when the police are called to respond. So automatically, I'm kind of third in line when we go out. The first response and intervention is from police, and that's primarily safety. And the counselor is also called upon to produce a result. Somebody was talking about producing the results. Their job is to assess and create at least a quick solution of some sort. And so sometimes I'm just along for the ride, and I can either hold hope, which I do, but sometimes my role is simply to have the courage to see things as they are and the grace to simply let them be. And sometimes that's sometimes that's a lot for a peer.
Told you all it was going to happen again. I was muted. I said that's a heavy load to carry. That's right. And so as peer specialists, we also have to have that support network within our organizations, within our kind of broader career force of having places where we're able to get support around holding all of that and how we deal with that and have some practices in self-care around that. Stephanie, I see that you have your hand up.
I'm sorry. I'm Dr. Stephanie Edwards Norflade, and I'm the newly appointed Executive Director of Heart and Soul. And even though I have extensive background in peer services, what I've not heard mentioned today is when there is an individual in crises that may or may not match, that may match a crisis that you're currently you're going through, such as the loss of a loved one, more specifically, a suicide of a child. I find that first and foremost, I have to take a step back and say, I'm not the most appropriate person to interact with this participant at this time, as I am grieving the loss of my son less than a few weeks ago. And as a peer specialist, what I find myself willing and wanting to do, couldn't save my son, so I want to save the world, is to step right in. And sometimes I think it bears mentioning we're not healthy enough to do that. How would you recommend providing such input to that participant? Is it right for a mother?
The cafe, but it's all the same.
I you know, there were a couple of people speaking, so I missed that. Hello?
Jason, you're muted.
Jason, you're muted.
Okay.
I muted myself. Man, I thought I muted the place where the sound was coming from. Sorry, Dr. Stephanie Edwards. So you were, I heard everything up to the last question. Were you just asking how to kind of deal with that situation?
Do we just take a step back in our role, especially when it's dealing with that specific crises?
Yeah.
And pass it on to another peer specialist? What do we do in that instance?
Great question. So there are a couple ways that typically happens, right? One is that it's like there's not a touch point with the lived experience directly, right? Like I haven't lost a child is one thing. Now, having said that, I have often experienced similar feelings. And so if I connect to the feelings that the person is experiencing and then connect them to the community or an individual that has direct experience with that situation, that's going to emphasize and strengthen peer support. On the other side of that, where the touch point is too close, right? There can be So one thing that we're going to pay specific attention to is the health of the relationship. And this is where I think people talked about boundaries earlier. And in the peer relationship, the boundaries that we're talking about primarily, like one of the primary boundaries is making sure that the relationship remains a peer relationship.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's boundary number one. An equally important boundary is the health of the relationship. So within that context, there's like, we can look at the health of a relationship. There are kind of three possibilities to have a healthy relationship. Possibility one, we're both healthy relationship. Possibility two, I am healthy and this other person is not healthy relationship. Okay. The other possibility is the other person's healthy and I'm not healthy. That can be a healthy relationship. So when we have that relationship then where we're both unhealthy, we can build in our practice, in our organizations, protocols and practices to realign to the healthy relationship. So for example, one of the things that we do in one of our programs is our peer specialists have a specific like safe word that they use, that they'll observe with each other in the practice of peer support, where they see that one peer specialist has been drawn out of a healthy practice. Another peer support specialist can come in, say that safe word. In this case, it was, I think I smell popcorn burning. Can you go check on that? And that person then leaves and another peer specialist comes in. So that we're able to make sure that, you know, our overall health ethic is do no harm, right? So we're going to make sure that overall health and well-being is emphasized and prioritized. Great question, and thank you. Okay, good questions. If you still have questions, hold on to them. We're going to move forward, and I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again. Okay, and thank you. And people are also putting their experiences in the chat, so please make sure you check in with the chat, see what other people are saying, see what your peers are saying. Okay, so now we're going to talk about self-help support groups, because self-help support groups are an evidence-based best practice. Now, right, remember that recovery, as we talked about before, can come from lots of places, okay? Everybody has their own place for, or their own path for recovery. Having said that, self-help support groups are widely available. Now they're widely available in virtual formats for every life issues. They're often free. They're often, or in a voluntary donation. 40% of whether people, does anybody want to read? Let's see, just let me ask that before I just start reading. People are welcome to read. I don't see a hand go up all. Okay, yeah, was that, let's see, who's got their hand raised? Was it Sonetta? Yes, go ahead, Sonetta. Adrian, you'll go second.
All right, self-help support groups. 40% of whether or not people are okay is directly related to the amount and quality of social support people have. All self-help support groups provide social support and strengthen organic community-based social supports.
Thank you, Sonetta. Right, so as human beings, 40% of whether we are okay or not okay is directly related to the amount and quality of social support in our lives. All right, so as peer specialists, that is a critical component of what we're doing. We are the vehicle that our systems lack to intentionally emphasize and strengthen social supports.
College easier because students have a lot.
Please make sure you're muted if you're not talking.
Hello, and welcome to the.
Thank you. All right. So, and whatever the life issue, whatever the kind of worldview of the self-help support group, one of the things that's going on is social support. People are supported in their experience and they're supported in a peer context. And this happens outside of a paid relationship, right? So somebody can have a great therapist, a great clinical social worker, they can have a great peer specialist, but if that's a paid relationship, what happens when the person that's paid to be in the relationship is off the clock? The relationship's not there. So one of the things that we're emphasizing with peer support is using this lived experience, this connection to strengthen the relationship and transfer the social support to the natural social supports that are available in the communities. So let me go to the next slide really quick because we're at 3:17. I want to be respectful of people's time. So Adrian, go ahead. Self-help support groups. Here's some research on self-help support groups.
Self-help support groups research. Cut the re-hospitalization of mental health consumers by 50%. Reduce the number of days spent in the hospital by 1/3. Reduce significantly the amount of medication needed to treat mental illness. Move large numbers of people out of the system into productive lives. Empower participants to collaborate with clinical staff, resulting in better adherence to medication regimes. Effects are realized in weeks and sustained for years.
Thank you, Adrian. We've got one more slide on self-help support group research. Who wants to go next?
I can do that.
Okay.
Self-help support groups research, reduce demands on clinicians' time, increase empowerment, provide community support. The suspected reason that people in developing countries recover from schizophrenia at nearly twice the rate that they do in developed countries. Provide mentoring opportunities that improve the outcomes of both the mentor and the person being mentored. Reduce criminal behavior, increase family resources and reduce family stress. Are underutilized by clinicians because of incorrect preconceived ideas about self-help and the lack of professional training on self-help.
Great, thank you. And one of the things that peer services allow us to do is inform all these systems of care about peer support, lived experience, and the benefits of self-help support groups, so that we become that bridge for connecting to community-based supports. So in terms of what that looks like, there's a distinction between a self-help support group based in the community and what's called like group therapy or a peer group. And one of the distinctions is that in a self-help support group, there's rotating leadership. And there is, in the groups when you're not in a locked facility, in the groups where one person is identified as the leader, you get a 90% dropout rate. 90% of the people that go to the meeting, if they see that one person is doing all the talking and is the leader, 90% will never go back. On the other hand, if leadership in a self-help support group is shared, you cut the dropout rate by more than half. So many self-help support groups, like all these 12,000 groups that I mentioned for 750 different life issues, they've learned this. They have rotating leadership. They have different leadership in each meeting. One person does literature, one person gets speakers, and many people are talking. And the other thing that happens is the helper therapy principle happens. Because when you have a group that is led by a leader, people perceive that the leader is helping everybody else. Whereas when you have a group, when leadership is shared, people are more likely to have the experience that they are helping others. So in many self-help support groups, there are opportunities for leadership. The other thing that's important is the breadth of social relationships that people have. Ideally, we want to be connecting people with as many possibilities for social support as possible. If my only experience with being in groups is that I'm in a group at the mental health clinic that I go to, then the only people I have that relationship with are people who are also receiving services at that clinic. And that's important social support. On the other hand, if I'm going to a self-help support group like Recovery International or DBSA that is in the community, then I've got relationships with the college student, the retiree, the construction worker, the librarian. My social connections move forward to people who are living their life outside of receiving services at that clinic. All right, so we want to broaden social support as much as possible. I'm going to cover this quickly. So some self-help support, and these are all going to be trained in Peer Services 101. Some self-help support groups that deal with mental health: Recovery International, DBSA, Emotions Anonymous, RAP, NAMI, Clutterers Anonymous, Neuroticos Anonymous, and it's, sorry, it's spelled wrong. It should be Anonymous. Emotional Health Anonymous, Hearing Voices. These are all self-help support groups specific to mental health issues that have their own particular tool set and approach to dealing with that. In terms of self-help support groups that deal with substance use, this side, these are self-help support groups. Well, let me do this. I'm going to do this way, okay? So over here, let me see if I can. Okay. You see the anonymous. These are 12-step programs. Okay. Great. Evidence-based practices. There's a 2020 study, and it's a Cochrane review, which is the most detailed literature review you can do in research. So there's a Cochrane review in 2020 that shows that Alcoholics Anonymous is more effective than professional treatment. All right. It works. There's another study from 2020 that shows that Narcotics Anonymous is more effective than professional treatment. Nonetheless, it doesn't work for everybody. 12-step programs are not going to work for everybody. And there's an issue of cultural competency here. And sometimes it's about what people look like. Sometimes it's about how people believe. A lot of times in the 12-step meetings, it's either too much God or not enough God. And so over here, there are all these self-help support groups, secular organizations for sobriety, people who define themselves as atheist or agnostic have better outcomes in secular organizations for sobriety. Smart Recovery is a cognitive behavioral approach to abstinence from substances. Overcomers Outreach is a specifically Christian-based, scripture-based program for abstinence from substances. Moderation Management is for people who don't think that they're an addict or an alcoholic. Women for Sobriety is specific to women. LifeRing is similar to SOS. Wellbriety recovery circles came from indigenous communities and bring in an indigenous perspective. 3-in-1 Recovery is a Christian-based self-help support group that is specific in the African-American or Black community and is the program of choice for many African-American churches. And it matches scripture with 12 steps. They have their own literature. Refuge Recovery, Recovery Dharma. These are Buddhist-oriented self-help support groups. Celebrate Recovery is another Christian-based abstinence program. So PS 101, we're gonna explore these in depth. We're gonna explore what tools they have so that people can, because even though I'm a peer, even though my life might have been saved by Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love Alcoholics Anonymous, if somebody has had a bad experience in Alcoholics Anonymous and comes back and says, I'm an alcoholic and I need help, I'm dying, please help me, but don't talk to me about AA, I hate AA, what's going to happen if the next sentence out of my mouth is AA saved my life? Right? The person's done with me. They're hanging up, they're walking out. So I have to say something like, oh, me too. What don't you like about AA? And when I ask about that, then they're empowered to discuss what they don't like. And this is a kind of, I think, a funny anecdote. The founder of AA, Bill Wilson, once said, all you need to start a new meeting is a resentment and a coffee pot. So we can connect with people's resentments about whatever they've already experienced and help them connect with something that deals with how they see the world. Okay. Life issues for self-help support groups. Mental health, food, behavior. When I say behavior, a lot of, so debting, gambling are behaviors that have specific self-help support groups for. Sex, grief, trauma, the family and relationships, physical issues, empowerment, substance use. There are specific self-help support groups for all of these issues that we want to orient to and build a kind of referral kind of practice so that we are aware of the meetings where people are going to get the broadest social support. That is also culturally competent and connected, where people feel like the group sees the world the way they see the world. A referral, okay? How do people get connected to self-help support groups? Well, 12-step groups have this saying, attraction, not promotion. Telling somebody about a group doesn't mean they're going to go. And Keith Humphreys, who was with the Obama administration and is one of the premier researchers on self-help support groups, did a study where he tested successful referrals to self-help support groups. So when the referral is a slip of paper with a phone number on it from a professional, that professional can be a peer, they go 0% of the time. On the other hand, when the person talks to somebody in the meeting, they go 100% of the time. So peer specialists can be that bridge between these two groups. We have lived experience. We can use our lived experience in self-help support groups, and we can use our training about which groups work for which issues to disclose in a way where we speak like the person that attends the meeting, and we're able to connect the person to the meeting. So we're going to train specifically on self-help support groups. That was a lot of information. We're going to have more questions and answers, but I want to get to recovery plan. Jamie, were you raising your hand or were you just itching? No, okay. Whew. All right. I'm going fast now because I want to get everything in. We had a really good connection in the beginning. We got a lot of input, which is great. We're going to talk about recovery planning now. And recovery planning is our kind of fourth practice. And this is the vision of what recovery looks like for every individual. So who would like to read this?
I'll read.
All right.
Recovery planning definition. Recovery planning is a way for a person to take charge of and control their recovery process by developing a written plan to help in their recovery. Key components: excuse me, a written plan that addresses recovery needs and/or pathways to achieve recovery goals. The planning process uses backwards design, which starts where you want to be and work backwards to get to where you are today. Commitments are then made to achieve each step on the path to the goal.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're
So
welcome.
one example of recovery planning is WRAP, okay? Wellness Recovery Action Plan, started by Mary Ellen Copeland, kind of done still by the Copeland Center. And the Wellness Recovery Action Plan often will include a list of things to do every day to stay as well as possible, upsetting events, early warning signs, signs that things have gotten much worse, wellness tools, action plans for responding, a crisis plan. What happens if I'm going to have a crisis? A post-crisis plan. All right. And there is people can download a free WRAP phone app at the Apple Store or Google Play to explore that more through WRAP and the Copeland Center. And another way, and we're going to train specifically in this, is the plan for success, the SHARE plan for success. So to go over the SHARE plan for success, I'm going to introduce Sarah, who is Sarah Gabriel, who is a peer bridger at SHARE, who connects, and she's going to talk about peer bridging too, but we'll talk about the plan for success first. So she connects people, she moves people into housing as a peer bridger, and often is working from encampments, moving people straight into housing, supporting people in housing as a peer bridger. And part of that is a plan for success. So Sarah, I am going to kind of stop sharing so that I can see you, and take it away.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jason. My name is Sarah. I am a peer bridger with SHARE Collaborative Housing, or housing program. And so a little bit about our plan for success. You know, something that happens with a lot of people when they're getting into this new environment of new possibilities and new opportunities is, you know, in homelessness, in addiction, in state of crisis, coming from trauma, a lot of times there's been this repetition of a lack of options, like not having a lot of choices to be made, not being able to have an extended vision of what the future is to hold. Everything's on a survival basis. What do I do right now? Whatever it is that I have in my field right now is the only thing I have to work with, and I have to make that thing work. And so really there is like a muscle, right, that doesn't get exercised, and that creates a lack of awareness for like there is a future. And so part of what I really enjoy doing with people, coming from my own, you know, state of despair, homelessness, and long-term drug addiction, was being able to share with people, what does it look like for you in 5 years? And a lot of times there's this state of panic, like it's stressful, I don't even know, that's too far away, and all these barriers come up, and well, I can't do this, and well, that would need to happen. And it's like, but in the best case scenario, and this is where it gets really fun with people, because it's something that a lot of people haven't really even sat down to consider as an actual possibility without being inundated with self-doubt or fear, or I could if only this would happen, or if you only knew how that was, you'd understand why it can't, you know, and those kind of those self-restricting belief systems come in. And so we get to sit down with people and really explore the options. And one of my favorite things to say to people is like the best case scenario, you know, like what if, just maybe for you, how good could it get? And what would that look like for you? And so on the plan for success, we have, you know, some people like to do it differently. It's not a one-way thing for everybody. The way that we encourage it is 5 years from now, in the best case scenario, with the most successful life that you could envision for yourself, what does that look like? What does that look like in relation to education, to your living situation, to a relationship with your family, to a career? Is it transportation? Is it traveling? Is it like the best case scenario, right? And then in 4 years, what will I have needed to do in order to get me to that 5-year goal? And then 3 years, what will I have needed to do or would like to have accomplished in order to get me to that 5-year goal? And so we'll bring it all the way down to 2 years, 1 year. I'm going to cheat 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 week, tomorrow, and today. And so it's in my experience, this is actually because I actually went through a shared home myself. It was extremely beneficial. It was and what I experienced with a lot of people is that spectrum of 5 years is so huge. And so it's like, what can we do today? And sometimes what they answer is, I'm just filling out this paperwork with you, you know? I'm dreaming big today. That's my goal I'm going to have for today, you know? And then, so what would we be able to do tomorrow to get you closer to some of those things? What would we do in 1 week? What would that look like? And sometimes it's, you know, wash my clothes, have a closet full of clean laundry that smells like laundry detergent. You know, sometimes it's get into a decent hygiene habit where I'm remembering to brush my teeth every day. You know, it might be having the guts to start looking at a resume for applications because their desire is to become employed once again. And so it's really interesting to be able to watch this, this creation of their own ideas come to pass, right? Where it's emotionally, what are some goals? Mentally, what are some goals? And you get to, and it gives me chills right now just thinking about it because it's so, and I appreciate when the other person said that they get emotional. I get extremely emotional about this too, because it's transformational. Having an opportunity to sit down and have someone sit with you side by side that believes that there's a future for you and that we get to share an experience of hope that, like, I was in that place before also of not really knowing what 5 years would look like, you know, and being able to, sometimes part of that plan for success is me disclosing how scary it was. I didn't know what was going to come in 1 week, but these are the things that I had put down and these are the things I've been able to accomplish. And then having that, that transparency and that hope as well, tangible hope. You know, it's one thing to hear about it from someone else, but it's another thing to sit side by side with somebody that's had some of the same experiences and challenges and emotions. And so, and the plan for success is something that we use as a guideline when we're helping support them, when we're helping advocate for them, when they're getting off, you know, when the trivialities of life are becoming way bigger than their goals. It gives us a way to kind of recenter of, is this worth the energy that you're spending on, you know, Susie taking your basil leaves? Or is there some energy that we could spend a little bit more on something that's going to help get you out of the house more so that you're, you know, working towards your own paycheck or something like that? And so it helps us re-navigate their own direction, and that can shift and that can change. And sometimes, and a lot of times, they have bigger ideas and they have bigger goals. And I want to go, actually, you know what, I'm going to work on my credit and I'm going to get a brand new car. I don't want to just spend $3,000 on an old car. And they start, you know, working up this thing. And I want to get into peer support specialist training, or I want to be able to help people, you know, and it's to see the expansion of one's belief based on goals that they're able to set themselves, because we meet them where they're at. And we identify, you know, like I've heard so many people share also, we identify what it is that they want, not what I think they should have, you know, and where it is that they would like to be. And even if I think that I see something bigger for them, acknowledging and honoring where it is that they choose to be and feel most comfortable. And then in the meantime, also encouraging them, you know, like I said, reach for the stars, like how good could it get? What's the very best it could be? And in the best case scenario, what that would look like.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific, any examples from a specific plan for success that we can, like, you could share anonymously?
So I dropped the ball on downloading that, but I do have it very fresh in my mind because this is somebody that I work with thoroughly on a daily basis. It was a gentleman that had come out of you know, prison, in and out of his life since he was in YA. Actually, he's in his late 40s now. He had been homeless for a number of years, disconnected from his family, trying to find little odd jobs to do along the way to keep himself with a hot meal or, a gym to shower at while he was living out of his car. And so since coming into one of Share Collaborative Housing and being a part of one of our workforce programs that we're affiliated with, one of his goal, the very first one, was just to get through this paperwork with me today, doing the welcome packet, doing the plan for success, evaluating establishing some of his goals. And his goal for the following day was to just stay on track with him trying to walk the straight and narrow. And then in 1 week, he wanted to be able to reattend a 12-step fellowship that he had been affiliated with in the past. 2 weeks from that, he wanted to continue working at a job that he had actually just got. It's his first full-time paying paycheck kind of job that he had in over 15 years. There was an additional goal of him reconnecting with his family, which he started communicating with his daughter once again after having that confidence of already following through on some of these accomplishments. He wanted to get a more dependable vehicle, which that's in the makes because his vehicle actually broke down. So we're kind of be careful what you ask for, because you might get persuaded into another direction of doing just that. But that has given him an opportunity. He's really saving his money and putting it, towards being able to get himself a more economical car. And down the road, he wants to be able to start his own moving business, his own license, doing all of that. And ultimately, he plans on buying himself a house in the Moreno Valley, which is where he grew up, and wants to go back to his roots. So, which is something that he never thought he would be able to do because of the harm that was caused there, the trauma that he came from, and the memories that it held. But now he's at this place where he sees it's a silver lining in being able to go back and give to the community that he once took from.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So I'm going to go back to sharing really quickly, and then we're going to come back to Sarah. Because what Sarah is talking about is kind of bridging this, what we've covered today. We've covered peer listening and disclosing. We've covered helper therapy principle. We've covered self-help support groups. We've covered recovery planning. And Sarah, as a peer bridger, is working using these things in a specific context. And peer bridging is another, there we go. Peer bridging is another thing. It's a component of peer services that we're going to be training in. Peer bridging is supporting somebody who is moving maybe from one place to another, one environment to another, and one identity to another. So it could be incarcerated to free. It could be hospitalized to living in the community. It could be unhoused to housed. Those are in addition to being physical contexts. Those things often carry broader emotional, psychological associations. And peer bridging is a process for supporting that movement into new identities. So Sarah's going to talk briefly. I see Transforming Peers has a raised hand. So I'm writing that down because you're going to be the first question when we get to questions after this. So thank you very much. Transforming Peers. Okay, so Sarah's going to talk about, really briefly, I'm going to time you for 5 minutes. Now it's going to give us lots of questions for next step, questions and answer and all of that. All right, so what do you do as a peer bridger, Sarah?
He has to time me because I'll hold this hostage. I like to talk. So as a peer bridger, one of the most important things that we get to do is create a connection. Whether we're meeting someone that is still living in a tent while we're doing outreach, whether it's someone coming into one of our homes, maybe it's somebody coming out of treatment, we get to meet them in their environment where they are at in their life with whatever is going on. And we start creating a connection. A lot of that connection is created through disclosing. In that disclosing, we're building rapport, and it's authentic disclosing. It's compassionate disclosing. It's listening. it's a lot of listening. It's a lot of listening about where they're coming from, what their experiences, different things that they've had to achieve and overcome. You know, and the whole while just remembering that, like Jason was saying, you know, our goal is to cause no harm. Our goal is to create a safe place where a person feels honored in their experiences, where they feel honored in their feelings, where they feel honored in their fears. It may have been an extremely long time since they've really been able to just kind of let the floodgates open and express all the different things that are going on in their lives. And that's what we get to show up for. Part of, you know, helping them in that process is, like we were talking about, establishing their goals. Their goal might not be housing right away. Their goal might be, you know, getting some sort of state assistance, or, you know, touching base with a resource that they had heard about and want to get back in contact with. So a lot of it is establishing what it is that they say they need and how I can best serve them in helping them learn how to advocate for themselves in not only seeking these things, because the last thing I want to do is do it for them, solve it for them, create it for them. It's a lot about, you know, problem solving. How would we do this? What are we researching? And so connecting them to self-help support groups is a really important part of that. Not letting myself be the only person that they have access to as far as that support. Always wanting to connect them to a community of people that understand their challenges and their struggles, their situation, because, you know, with me, that does create a little bit of an emotional isolation, you know. And so when it's a group of people and a series of people, they get to work on their social skills, they get to work on advocating for themselves, raising their hand and saying, this is something that I'm having an issue with, and then getting all different kinds of sides and facets of information and ideas. It's infinite solutions, right? And not solving their problems for them is I made little notes to keep myself focused. Not solving their problems for them, but using the problem solving tool, you know, process of elimination, starting out with an idea and expanding on that idea. We look at ways to execute that goal, but the whole time, like, what are their ideas? How would you do this? What if this were to happen? You know, a lot of the things that I use is like, in the best case scenario, if there wasn't anything holding the situation back, what would it look like you getting to that goal, and what would we need to do? You know, and cheering them on is a really, really, really big deal. For a lot of people, it's been a long time since somebody was there to believe in them. It's been a long time since somebody was there, like, telling them, like, I know you can do it, and validating your fears, that I know that this is scary, but I totally believe that you can, you know, what's the bravest thing that you could do right now? What's the bravest way that you could show up? We have a tool in our toolkit that we use called AAA, which is attention, affection, and approval. You know, the compliments, and I see all the good that you're doing, and this is amazing how you showed up, A, B, or C, even though you were this, that, or the other. Identifying with what it is that they're actually experiencing. If it's, you know, if they're having a controversy with another person and they see it as an excuse or reason for them to, you know, quit, trying to help redirect them back to the ultimate goal of self-sufficiency. If whatever it is that they're looking at, that's where the plan for success is extremely helpful. And always throughout this process, it's been extremely important for me to meet them where they're at, you know, not where I think they should be, not the potential of where they could be, not if what they said last week was true and that's where they ended up, you know, but just really truly where they are, because there's such a roller coaster in the dynamics of this process, of the highs and the lows and the fears and the excitement, and then I'm all on board one day and the next day I'm isolating in my room and I don't want to answer the phone. And so being patient with the process, remembering that I'm not God, I'm not the judge, and I'm not the cops, you know, that I really am here as a peer. And just always disclosing that, like, I really do know what that feels like. One of my favorite things to be able to say with people is like, on a cellular level, like, I understand that, you know, there's some things that just on a cellular level, like in my body, in my nervous system, like I know where you're feeling that thing right now, and being able to connect with a person on an emotional level. You know, I'm one of those people, like I get emotional with people. I'm transparent in that way. You know, I enjoy being able to see another person, and it's always something that I do is like when I see a person, even if it's just a tiny bit opening up, I'm honoring that. Like, thank you so much for sharing your truth with me. And more than that, like, thank you for trusting your truth with me, and honoring that communication 100%.
Sarah, thank you for sharing your truth with us.
Sure.
And I want to say, so that peer bridging, right, is on both sides of what the bridge is. So it's building the peer support. It might be inside and you know, a kind of a facility, a hospital, a jail. It might be in a tent in an encampment. And it's also building the support on the other side of that bridge, right? When somebody's back in the community, when somebody's in the house, what support looks like in that context, and carrying that. And I just want to say, Sarah, you work 5 days a week. How many days a week do you think that you are? And you're probably supporting 25 to 30 individuals on a regular basis. Like that's kind of your load of peer support.
It's probably closer to 50.
Okay. And how many days a week are you dealing with crises?
5.
Okay. So crisis support is part of this at all levels. Okay. And we're going to build that in. So thank you very much, Sarah. That is kind of an overview of peer bridging. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Here we go. All right. So here we are. Now we are peer bridging, and discussion and questions. Before we get to that, I'm going to talk about the next steps, because I want to just end with a discussion and stop sharing and see people and all of that stuff. So we're going to have a schedule of these kind of quarterly learning collaboratives. The goal for the next one, right? This one was kind of like a one-off because you haven't had any learning associated specifically with this program. You all have your expertise, your lived experience. You have a lot of learning and you've shared it with us today, so thank you. The rest of the learning collaboratives are going to be a little bit more specific about the kinds of learning that you're getting with this project. We're going to have a schedule of monthly webinars. We will send out a save the date soon to follow up with this for the next and first webinar, which will be early December 2021. We're going to have conferences. We've got 2 peer conferences and 1 peer supervision conference. So the first conference is Excellence in Peer Services. Our kind of conference specialists here are Jessica Wolf and Joanna Forbes. Jessica's with Yale, Joanna's with Rutgers. They are both have a lot of experience with the research community that's, you know, international, specific to peer support. We are going to feature Keith Humphreys from Stanford, who is one of the expert researchers on substance use issues and peer support around substance use. That conference is Wednesday, January 19th, 2022, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you want to participate in, do a presentation, start thinking about your own presentations. This conference, when we were originally thinking about the conference, we thought it would be like hybrid. We want to do an all virtual conference and let people stay where they are and then spend that part of your budget bringing people to the peer respite to get like in-person hands-on training. So the conference will be virtual. We're going to then PS 101, the peer toolkit, peer bridging, and the supervision of the peer workforce. These are things that we're going to highlight over the course of the project in all these kind of modules, and we're going to build them into the Behavioral Health Resource Center, the site, so that we have distinct modules of them. that are going to go in depth into the things that we've covered today. So now, discussions and questions. What have we learned today? What have we learned today? What do you want to put into practice? What questions do you have? Thank you so much, Transforming Peers. You've had your hand up. It's all yours.
Okay, so this is Elizabeth Stone, and I actually supervised a Peer Bridgers project in Niagara, New York. So I just want to be really clear that this is a little bit of term spread, the way that you're using this term, because peer bridging as an evidence-based practice was very specific, the way that it was developed and practiced and studied. And so I just want to just maybe have 2 minutes to talk about it. It had been developed for people that were leaving state hospitals that tended to be longer term stays. So the peer bridger would begin meeting with people once they had a potential discharge date. So maybe 3 to 6 months prior to their discharge, they'd meet with the people in the hospital, take them out into the community as a peer to show them like, oh, now we have ATMs. Now this is how you have to check out at a cashier, whatever kind of new things that have been happening. Find out resources in the community for maybe an hour or 2 visit. They'd go back, and that would happen 2 or 3 times a week until the person was actually discharged, usually to some sort of step down residence. And the peer bridger continued a relationship with that person now that they were out of the institution, again, connecting them with specific community resources that really linked with their specific interests and needs. So I just want to be really clear, you know, we talk a lot about fidelity to models and kind of the spread of responsibilities. So a lot of what you're sharing is really great, but just in terms of when we're talking with it, especially people that may be questioning the value, the studies were done on a very particular model that follows what I just described.
The studies on that project were specific to that project.
But that's where the term peer bridging came from, right? So it's just important for us to be clear. Please don't interrupt me. That was one of your things, right? I just want people to be clear that they know what the resources and studies are showing.
We're going to give them that research and others, because like you've said, that was where the name came from. And that is very specific project. And and that project is part of the research we're going to share with everybody, which is great. We're also going to share research and projects that have come since. So thank you very much. And we do want fidelity and we do want practices. So thank you very much. Other questions and discussion. What have we learned today? What do you want to implement? And we have.
Excuse me, I do have a question. Again, this is Dr. Edward Snorfleet. Will we get a copy of this presentation? Perfect, because I've been taking pictures all along.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. It was wonderfully presented.
Okay.
Wonderfully presented. Thank you.
Great. And Lenny is going to put the evaluation link into the chat box. So if you please make sure you go to that link and you can do the evaluation. Thank you all very much. What else? We have 2 minutes. Looking for hands. Oh, Mary. Yes. You're muted, Mary. I think, let me ask you to.
Thank you so much for an awesome training today, all of you. And one thing that really stands out in my mind and what I would like to put into practice is that the 5-year plan. I truly believe that what we focus on or think about the most is what we become. And doing that gives, a peer vision. But I really enjoyed that. And thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Jason, for facilitating this. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna say Sarah made me cry. Love you, Sarah.
I hope this was a valuable 3 hours. I hope this is a meaningful kickoff to the learning and the time that we have together. We are so excited to support all of your efforts and your expertise in scaling the peer workforce. We really have a chance in California to make it exceptional and to really establish excellence in this field.
Thank you, Jason.
Be a part.
Going on this meeting today, and Sarah, that was a very awesome speech you just did. Very awesome. And I relate to it very much. Thank you once again.
And being relatable is the key to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Outstanding. Excellent, Jason.
Bye-bye.
All right, it is 4 o'clock, everybody. Please make sure you hit the link, the evaluation link, so that we get your feedback. We are committed to continue to improve. So evaluate us. Tell us what you want more of. Tell us what you want less of. Tell us what you learned, what you didn't learn, and we will adjust.
Don't forget to register, you said.
And don't forget to, good, thank you. Barbara, you're right on. Good job. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great afternoon, a great week.
Bye, all. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
I just wanted to verify, Sarah, did you say 50 peers every week or every day?
Roughly. Well, all in all in the houses that I bridge. But every day it's anywhere from 5 to 20.
Okay. All right. And self-care, you didn't talk about what you do for self-care. We need to know about that.
You know, self-care is my #1 part of my foundation. I attend self-help support groups, my spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, my nutrition, exercise, downtime, rest, sleep, grounding, spending time with loved ones, getting into a good book, detaching from, technological anything, spending time with my kitty cats, yeah, just enjoying life. Yeah, I actually had that at the bottom of my notes too, but you can see it. But yeah, self-care, essential. Our self-care is mandatory because we can only, when we bump into somebody, whatever is in our cup is what's going to flow out, right? So hopefully it's that of compassion and love and tolerance for ourselves and others.
And organizationally, building in the kind of the practices and the opportunities for self-care is really critical to effective peer services.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for letting me ask a question after 4 o'clock.
Hey, we're still here. If people have more questions,
I'm here, yeah.
I was
going to say, I'm not sure
for another half hour.
I'm not sure it's just my computer, but the evaluation form, the link, when I click on it, it's not taking me anywhere. So it could just be me.
Yeah, I just got a message from Libby saying that she was going to send it to you, Paula.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paula, I saw your chat and I'm sending out an email right now. In fact, I'm going to just send it to everybody. So if any of you are having trouble with that link, it's possible there are 53 people who are currently filling it out.
Oh,
so it's possible that we're just having a little bit of a load problem.
Yep, I bet you that's it.
But I'll get that link out to everyone via email.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, I want to say, if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to touch base with me. My email is Sarah, SARA @shareselfhelp.org.
Great, thank you.
So we're having a problem with the link also, but it's saying that the meeting has ended, so he can no longer register.
All right, let's see. And that is Dennis? Okay. Libby, do you have that, or Lenny?
Yeah.
Right. Can you put your an email in the chat?
He did receive it via email, and that was the one that said that.
Ah.
Okay, so is it an issue with the evaluation or with the registration for having attended?
Registration.
Yeah. Registration. Okay, so I'll take a look at that right now. I have 142 people registered. When I just clicked the link, it did say that it had closed. Okay. So,
My age, get me going, rolling.
so here's what I'm going to do. If you were not able to register, I'm just going to put my email in the chat, and please just send me an email saying, yes, I did attend, and then I can add you manually. I'm not sure how to get around this.
We're learning.
We're
Yay.
learning. It does close. They're correct. It does close because the event is over. So
yeah,
I believe we have 142 people who attended, and so I believe that most people did register. But if you didn't have a chance to do that, please do send me an email. I'll add you manually.
Great.
To that list.
Jason, just wanted to say I really appreciate your facilitating today. And I loved your enthusiasm, energy. And if there's anybody still on board from the breakout group that I was in, I really appreciated getting to spend time with you there. I'll look forward to seeing you guys all again. I'm going to sign off now. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, bye. Nice seeing everyone.
Bye, Paula. Thank you.
Good job, Jason.
Oh, thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Great start.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
I'm sure over the next couple of years, it's going to get better and better every quarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a curious question for you.
Okay.
Take care, all.
You too, Dave.
In your library, do you have stuff for people that have learning disabilities?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And there's,
Yeah, 'cause-
you know, one of the things for example, there was a specific, at one point, SOS, Secular Organizations for Sobriety, had a specific format for people, a meeting format for people with disabilities, and it was developmental disabilities, because you know, like the 12-step programs have 12 steps,
right,
which can get pretty convoluted. SOS has one. It's the sobriety priority. No matter what happens today, my number one priority is I won't drink or use no matter what. Sobriety is my number one priority. And so they had a format that was less words, more bullet points and pictures for how to run the meeting, what recovery words were, things like that, that worked very well. So yeah, we do have that in our library, and we're always looking for more. So if you have resources, please share them.
Well, I'm thinking of any books that you recommend, and that kind of stuff needs to be on audio for me.
Okay. All right, great.
And I did run into a little bit of, I was sitting on the waiting 15 minutes ahead of time to try to get on this call. I had a very hard time doing that.
Okay.
One was the format of how the flyer was designed. I couldn't pull the information from it and add it into the bar.
Into the, like the URL?
Yeah, couldn't do that. And I tried to get it to upload to my calendar, and it wouldn't do that. So I had a little bit of frustration, because usually what I'll do is I'll go into my calendar, pull the link, and just go. Well, yeah. I was scrambling. I was late, and I was so scared that I wasn't going to be able to get in, and I didn't even know who to ask at that point. What do I do now?
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
That's good. We'll make sure that we include and like save the dates and registration flyers, who to contact for problems.
Yeah, and because we can't practice ahead of time how to use Zoom,
yeah,
it's complicated, and I'm going to ask you please to do a workshop on how to utilize it.
Okay.
Because I know I'm not alone with that one. You know, learning how to do the share. I led my first meeting doing that last night, and I actually had to have people in my group actually show me how to do it. So, I mean, if you could go onto it and click the buttons beforehand, but you can't do any of that. So it's hard to practice or learn this.
Yeah. We had to practice before we did this today, and we got, we weren't able to practice the breakout rooms ahead of time because somebody used the meeting room and had the another meeting scheduled for that time. So we're like, oh, we can't get in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good idea too. I'm writing these down.
Yeah, and one of the things I really like is the Google, because it has all these neat, nifty things, and it's easier to get on, I think. If you're already using Google tools, it's easier to use than Zoom, because I had to bring it up on my phone first and then try to get it on my computer so I was comfortable.
Yeah.
So, and I know we ran into problems in our group where they can get it on their phone, but they can't get it on their computer. So
I just want to say that Sarah is texting me in real time, suggesting that we attach a link, because Zoom has a tutorial. So the next one that we do, we will include that link so that people can do the Zoom tutorial.
Okay, awesome. I think that it will be very helpful for all of us.
That's great.
Because I'm sure you guys have come up with some tools on there that we don't know about, you know, and how we can make it work better and faster for everyone. Because I found I was frustrated. So
yeah. Well,
I mean, maybe what we could do is invite anyone that's wanting to learn more about Zoom to the next one, like 30 minutes beforehand, and just go through Zoom tools. Google Meet is a great tool, but because we have more than 100 participants, Google Meet is less stable for larger groups. I think we're going to have better video quality and better bandwidth availability with Zoom. But I agree with you that some of the tools that we're using are brand new to people, and we can break it down. And we can also, Zoom has some really great short videos that you can look at just to get familiar with the features, and we can easily make that available to everybody.
Oh, that would be awesome. Please do that, because I mean, I was scared I wasn't going to get into this meeting today, you know, because I was already frustrated trying for 15 minutes to get it to work.
Yeah.
And going back to the flyers and finding out that I can't click that to go into it was very frustrating.
So I mean, another thing we could do is send out a reminder maybe an hour beforehand, just with a link in it so that people can get the email, click.
I love that idea. That's a fabulous one, because all of us with our busy lives, you know, we go in and we look to see where it is, we click, go. Or I go into my calendar, which it wouldn't go to my calendar, and I don't know why. So
I just wanted to say, Sage, I'm so grateful that you came anyways, like despite all those frustrations and feeling like you maybe weren't going to make it. Like, I'm just really excited that you were able to navigate through that and decided to keep trying. Like, I'm so grateful that you were here, because those are amazing ideas that will definitely be able to help others in the future too. So thank you for advocating for that.
Yeah, well, I figure if I'm running into it, a bunch of other people, 150
thank
people that
you.
were there.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So thank you for your help, and y'all did a good job.
You did a good job too. Thank you for being here, Sage.
Thank you.
For sure.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Actually, I really liked you. I live in Butte County, and Butte County's been devastated by so much. And I try to listen more than I talk when I go to these things, you know. So we have some serious things that we're trying to still deal with. And the sad part that we get is the people that run our councils and behavioral health, I'm not sure that they get it. These people are not homeless because they want to be. They're homeless because, you know.
Because of the campfire, and because of the floods, and because of everything that's.
Yep. And because of that, we lost 14,000 places to live, besides the businesses. And the first few weeks, people's families were coming and getting people, but the ones that got left behind because there was nowhere for them to go. Butte County says they got everybody put somewhere, even if it wasn't in this county. I know people that fell through the cracks on that and are still in temporary housing, homeless, or they live in a house that's not really good for where they're at, but there's no housing here. It's causing us problems with counseling. It's causing us problems with psychiatrists. They have nowhere to be here. So my suggestion is they need to use a platform like this to do their meetings outside the county for now. But for some reason, they're resisting it. We have 70 counselors that are missing right now in our workforce.
Wow.
70. That's like unbelievable, especially in a county that's been devastated so hard. So my solutions are, I think every councilman and every person who sits on a board needs to go and stay in a homeless shelter for 5 days. No keys, no wallet, no means of being able to take care of themselves. They have to go in with clothes that they got from a thrift store or something that's old and torn up. And no car, no keys, no money, nothing, and have them walk into a shelter and see what they do for 5 days. They get to go back to their comfortable life after that. But we've got to help bring this human experience to those who do not understand it, those that have never been homeless, those that have always had that stability for one reason or another. And unfortunately, homelessness is becoming the norm instead of the opposite. So, that's one of my thoughts, is that's how we can help them understand, how hard it is to try to get from one place. I was homeless, so I know. And I'm also disabled in a chair, which made it 15,000 times harder. But I did it. I have been in an apartment now for 5 years. You can see my kitty over here who's laying beside me this whole time. But yeah, I think if we're going to make it the human experience, we have to bring that human experience to them. And they still get to go home. That won't be their experience in 6 months or even a month from then. So just a thought, folks.
Thank you. I have to log off. So
I do too.
Thank you, everybody.
Kat.
Have a great night.
Thank
Really
you very
great to have
much.
everybody here.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.